When we use the term sales pitch, I don't want to make it sound like it's some sort of cheese fest, because it's not. I think you just have to be deliberate in delivering something that's going to have impact, have them wanting to come back and hear it again. And that means engaging and not just playing like you're playing in your room.
It's midnight, always someplace in the world. Somebody's having the best night, others the longest in their life. It depends how the motion in your rhythm is going, as long as your plans turn out right. Some laid out on maps so religiously, others lived out in the mere flicker of the light. The flicker of the light. Sweet Mary, she's smoking her chain, and she's loving everything with no pain. She's floating high on a river vacation, can't think of nothing but a destination. It doesn't matter, 'cause this life is a journey, a free will flying slow. Hippies hanging at the local street corner, rescued down in Mexico, yeah. Way down in Mexico. Stomp on the soil, build up turmoil, bang on your wall, ease your big fat fall, shout with your soul, smash your old foe into beautiful obliteration, to a sweet, beautiful obliteration. Finally on her wrong track, a smile so wide and she's never gonna look back. A master plan, never masterpiece so wrong, and now she's left singing songs of her Mexico. Ooh, her songs of Mexico. Her songs of Mexico.
Hey, Scotty, thanks for coming.
Glad to be here.
All right. So, business and music. There's a way of doing music like you're selling things. When you're doing a performance and you're trying to keep the audience, you're trying to have the audience come back, you need to sell it. You're doing an entertainment kind of enterprise. How do you bring your salesmanship as a businessman to what you do in music?
Well, I think it's frankly just a matter of keeping an attentive audience, whether that's a client or, in this case, your client is the audience member who's listening. If you don't engage them and have a positive, I think, presence there, if you're not doing a little bit more than just simply playing your guitar, looking down, but rather you're actually engaging the audience, you're looking at the audience, you're a part of that experience, you're making them a part of the experience, I think that's selling. And I think it's absolutely critical if you want them to come back.
Right. It's like being in a store. You want to sell to them, you want to engage them, you want them to go away happy, and you want them to come back and buy another door.
Exactly.
You sell doors, right?
That's right. We have an overhead door company, and that's what I do for my gig, my day gig.
That's right. So what do you bring from selling doors to your performance as an artist?
I think maybe this is life in general. I think that once you start to learn how cues play, and if you're playing off of cue of an individual that you're selling a product to, or to a room full of people who you have to come and play your original music or play a cover tune, that it's a matter of learning the cues and how things are playing out. If you're losing them, you can tell. If you hear chatter starting to build up in a room, you're losing them. You're not selling them appropriately. I don't want to be a cheesy salesperson, so I'm not. I used to be an MC. And when I was an MC, let me tell you, hi everybody. I mean, it was that kind of thing,
right.
And that was a different era. And I think audiences have matured. I think we as a society have learned that you don't have to be song and dancey. So when we use the term sales pitch, I don't want to make it sound like it's some sort of cheese fest, because it's not. I think you just have to be deliberate in delivering something that's going to have impact, have them wanting to come back and hear it again, and that means engaging and not just playing like you're playing in your room.
Yeah, I had an epiphany many years ago with my partner from Australia, a guy named Phil Royal, who tours a lot, and we were chatting because we played for many years, and he said, "Look, mate, I'm not just an artist now. I'm a performer."
Absolutely.
Which means that he's giving them their money's worth, and he's keeping them, and he's rocking them, and he's pulling them out for the whole 2-hour show or whatever it's going to be. You don't just phone it in at any point.
No, you can't. And that's the thing. I call it the glaze. Sometimes you'd be younger and you're studying for something, and after a while, or you're listening to a class, you'd be studying and listening to them, and then after a while, you just glaze over. And if you do that in the middle of your performance, you've lost.
Oh, they're glazing over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have crickets or you have conversation over what you're playing, apparently you've done something wrong. And those are things that I've gone home and taken lessons from. Sometimes I grab my little iPhone and video the thing, and then come back. When I was first starting to play publicly at open mics, I'd be like, oh, I thought that song was perfect. I thought everything had the right beginning, middle, and end. Everything was really flowing there. And why did I lose that audience? And I think that's the part when you come back, if you have the luxury of technology now that we do, to review it and say, okay, I just wasn't present. You're
treating it like a business enterprise, essentially. Because if you're gonna, so say you want to do your sensitive singer-songwriter stuff, which I like doing that a lot. You also are selling that to the quiet coffee house that you're playing at.
You really hit a mark there. So I kind of look at it like a venue. So there's some venues where you're going to play a coffee house, for example, or if you're going to play some big rockin' thing, and depending on the time of the day, the venue, if it's an afternoon happy hour show where everybody's gathering at the end of the week and they're having they're in a jovial mood. They want up-tempo stuff. Okay, it's a coffee house on a Tuesday night. Not that I do those much or ever, but we've all had our experiences playing an open mic here or there, and you know what? You got to kind of feel that room and hopefully vibe with it. It doesn't mean you're selling out your craft either, but I think it's wise in that salesmanship aspect to tailor a bit to your audience.
They want to hear the song about the dead girl in the river.
Absolutely.
Where you're feeling very, very sad. But on Friday afternoon, they want to hear about dancing in the streets.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I think part of that is just getting out and hearing friends play at different places, and as you start really experiencing the different venues and you see how things play over you, if you're paying attention, you're going to know. And if you're not paying attention, oh boy, will you know the wrong way.
Well, it's like a lot of people. You have to read people.
Yeah.
Not everyone reads people.
Absolutely.
Who really reads people pretty well is homeless people. I deal with a lot of homeless people as a reporter.
I bet.
They have wonderful bullshit detectors. And I think I don't know how much that exactly relates to music, but there's a way of tuning in, and then having an interactive energy level that goes on that you then need to bring. It's the same way when you're talking to someone like that as when you're going to be playing a concert.
Or when you're selling a door. I've had clients, and when I was young and green, you could tell I was losing them. You could tell that you'd be talking about something, and it was because I wasn't really as aware in my craft of what I was doing at that time for my day job. And I think much goes the same today when we play music. Hopefully we all continue to evolve and get better in our proclivity, how we play, and marry that with how we're marrying it to the audience.
That's the thing. Back to my guy in the street, you're talking to a person. You're having you want to talk all the way down. You don't want to just talk here. You want to talk all the way through.
Right.
Singing and playing and putting out the energy and trying to have it roll back. That's a different kind of language.
It is.
How can looking at having a conversation with someone and reading them, how can you translate that into the language of music and performance?
Well, I think a lot of it can be by chance. I think you have to be quickly adaptive if you're not familiar with the space.
You see what's hitting it?
Absolutely. And if you have the luxury, okay, if it's an open mic, of course, it's a little bit more informal.
It's a whole different format.
But when you're playing a venue, I think it's your job and your diligence. You better, I would hope, pay attention enough to tailoring a bit to that venue, to the style of what's going to be expected of that audience. Go to some shows there if you haven't played them before. Get a sense and feel of the place. Now, if you're doing national tours, which I am not, you don't have time for that, and I guess you just work it out on the road, as they say.
Your agent looks it out. Yeah.
Yes, those who have the ability to have an agent, I guess. I'm having a lot of fun with what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I like how you say that even during the performance you're calibrating it. There's a way you approach it so that you want to be professional when you're playing. I've run into plenty of musicians who don't treat it as if they were doing a professional thing. Even if you're an amateur, you need to be a responsible adult as you're playing it.
Unequivocally, I think you have to be deliberate. You don't want, this is, again, I think everybody has different viewpoints, but if you're too much in your head and you're too much focusing on the room, you're also going to be showing up as somebody who's not being genuine to your material, right? So the connection with an audience, I think, happens a lot of times because I've witnessed it, where somebody's singing and they're really in the element and their eyes are closing and they're really feeling it and they're being a part of it. And I've watched the room as a patron. I'm like, I want to see how this works for this artist. Wow, look at the way people are really drawing.
It can work. Yeah.
Absolutely it can, because it's at that moment they have figured out, that artist at that time has figured out to play to themselves critically, not the in your room self. I've done the assessment of the room. I'm playing the room. I want to entertain these people before me, but I also can't be so focused on it. I got to just be natural and let it go.
And you've got the room hooked into where you're going.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's like we were talking, Dylan turns his back to the audience, almost has a screw you attitude in some of his gigs. Sometimes he's engaging, but when he does the back to the audience, how come he gets away with that?
Well, when you can write so well as Dylan, and I think it's been proven that he's been cataloged with over 500 songs that have been covered by Dylan in the years. I mean, there's a guy who's the exception to the rule. It's not a fair comparison to anybody in this room. No offense to you or I.
That's what I kind of thought. Yeah, I mean, he's a whole different animal.
Yes.
But if you're doing it, even if you're professional, the nationally touring bands, you have to bring a can-do attitude. I'm awake, I'm engaged, I'm showing up early. Can you be sloppy and be the tortured soul artist and still pull it off?
Yeah, if it's 1993 and we're trying to be Nirvana, or we're trying to be that kind of grungy kind of feel, even though there wasn't slop, they made it sound like slop, but it was brilliantly played. But no, I mean, I guess it depends on how the arena is being discussed. If we're talking about the arena of, I just want to be in my little world of playing with my community and my friends, or if I want to be a mega arena star. And frankly, at this age and stage in my life, I've come to the realization that the number one thing I'm doing this for, selfishly, is me. I love the music. I love the feel. I have a 2-word phrase that's been on my little Facebook page. You know it. It's on there. It says music heals, because it really, in my opinion, having this thing, music, and having now at this stage where I feel like I've found my mode, if you will, of how to play and where I want to go and what I'm doing, I just think that there's nothing more therapeutic for the mind, body, and soul than playing, and playing with people.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You're a type A kind of guy. And you bring a type A kind of show to you got high energy going on.
Yeah.
Just like when you're selling, when you're running your business.
I hope
there's no messing around.
I take my naps before the shows.
Yeah.
No, I think you do. I think you don't want to bore people. I mean, I don't want to go to a show and fall asleep. I mean, unless it's just an insanely, really kind of, I'm in that melancholy mode, but I mean, that's not what I'm going to go out and hear a live show for.
Well, it's back to one of our points. For you, is the music poetry, or is the music business?
I think I think if we were going to say it's in one simple answer, it would be unfair to truth, because I think there's a little bit of everything in it. I think there's absolute times where I was talking to somebody earlier today about this, that she had asked me, how often do you write a new song? And I said, well, It depends. I said earlier this year I put out 4 in a matter of a month. It was just that everything was just flowing out of me. There's other times where it's 6 months and maybe I'll do 1. Or maybe I'm learning others, I'm learning covers because I'm going to have a gig coming up with the band or whatever. But I think that you have to be genuine to your process. You can't force it. I remember one time last year I tried to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a song today. And it's never worked that way.
Yeah, there are pros that do that. That's a different kind of thing, though. It's a different gig.
Perhaps so. That's not my thing every day, but I would say that usually when I find that I can write the most is, interestingly, right before a show. Like literally before the show is going to happen, and we've already got the set list down, whether I'm doing a solo thing or I'm with a band or I'm collaborating with somebody. The show's about to come on, and all of a sudden something new comes up. Or the next morning after the show, that post-show euphoria. It just comes out in the middle of the night, and you come down and sit down on the guitar, and all of a sudden the chords are just coming out, and all of a sudden the song is forming.
See, I've wondered if that's an endorphin thing. It's like writing news stories. A lot of people can hang up, and then deadline comes, and you don't not do the story.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly it all comes clear. It's because the panic has increased endorphins in your head. Just before you go onto a show, you're amped up.
Right.
And your head suddenly starts thinking quicker.
Well, I think also probably the two comparisons would be that when you're writing a story, you need that focal point to work around. And I think a song needs that as well. It needs to have some sort of starting point, whatever that thing is. I'm observing something in society. I'm experiencing this emotional thing because I had this kind of day. But in the big picture of things, whatever that thing is that starts it could still be hodgepodge. How you create a core reason and wraparound for that story, for that song.
Yeah, and everyone gets different inspirations.
For sure.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself 10 years from now in your music business? Because you've been doing this quite a while.
If I was to say where I see myself ideally, I would say it would be perhaps retired from my day gig. I've done this for 30 years, and maybe playing for my living modestly. That's where I would ideally like to be, I think, at this stage. Now, you could ask me this question next year, and it may change. Just in this last year, it's changed a lot from when I started the band to what we're doing right now. Things continually evolve. But I'd say right now, with the current trajectory, I would say that wouldn't be a bad living. If I was playing 3 days a week and was just making enough, and I don't need to live under extravagant means. I've got the gear I need. I'm not into buying brand names. I like life. I want to live, baby.
Well, do you make a business plan, or do you just do it responsibly every time you set something up?
I think the latter. I think if you get too businessy about it, then you're going to lose track of why you're doing it in the first place. And the reason I'm doing it first and foremost is that I love what I do. It's so much fun. It's therapeutic. And yes, I'd like to make some money along the way, especially if I have others playing with me. They've got to cover their gas money, so to speak.
Oh yeah, and the bigger the band, the bigger the cut.
Yes, for sure. The division.
The division.
Absolutely,
yes.
And I think that's the challenge. But hopefully, if you go that route, which I don't know if we're going to continue to go that route or not, but you get enough traction that you're earning more as you go. In the big picture of things, I just want to be able to continue to play. I love it. It makes me happy. I love when I see other people happy. I love when they come back to me and say, no, seriously, that's a really good song. Not the, hey, buddy, that was great, but a genuine positive response.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of an ego boost, but it's really gratifying because it made everybody's day a little more healing.
Dig it.
Just like Gary Clark Jr., the song, The Healing.
Right on, man. Thank you very much for coming.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
I'm moving to Mars. Yeah, I think I'd like to try me out a life in the stars. My friends all say I need a place to air out my heart, so I'm moving to Mars. You know, this life has been crazy. Sometimes I think I'm not really here. Every time I turn around, another friend is going down, and I can't see her face for the tears. So I'm moving to Mars. Yeah, I think I'd like to try me